What's up, folks? It's Dr. Larmy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the Xler to provide you my thoughts on the latest episode of The Gifted. The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 5. We're somewhere, I think, roughly in the middle of this first season. I'm not exactly sure how many episodes are going to be in this season, but we appear to be heading towards the middle. It's exciting. It's an exciting story arc that we're following here. The episode follows immediately from the events of the last episode, which is awesome. Just kind of continuing with that kind of climactic sequence that was really exciting, and for me was the thing that kind of like brought me into the reality of the show completely. And now I'm like all in. I'm 100% in. I believe it. I believe that this is an X-Men show. I believe that this is a world of mutants, and that mutants use their powers, and there's a lot of them, and they're everywhere, and so it's an immersive experience as far as like what you want from a world of the X-Men. Mutants everywhere, powers everywhere, threats to mutants everywhere. So as far as like what the show needed to do to kind of like captivate an audience, I think they did it. And I think last episode was like the thing that really kind of solidified that. And it kept going this episode. It didn't stop. It was really cool. Like just kind of seeing Lorna out and about, and then continuing to use her powers like indiscriminately was exciting. It was exciting to continue seeing that, because that's what I want. I want them to keep giving me powerful Lorna, and that's what they're giving me. So I'm really excited about that. So what else did we see in this episode? Oh, so the episode started with the flashback to this July 15th event, which we now understand to be some sort of protest, like pro-mutant protest that kind of resulted in some sort of battle between mutants and humans, which left a lot of humans dead, and was sort of and probably a lot of mutants as well, and was sort of the catalyzing event that led to the world really turning on mutants like aggressively. And Lorna mentioned in this episode that dozens of mutants have been killed since then. I'm assuming laws have been passed to kind of put mutants into this box of like a legitimate threat that requires, martial law type of approaches to control them. So the world has changed as a result of this event that happened 4 years ago. So it's not what I postulated might be, probably around the second episode, when I thought that maybe the event was that event that occurred in Logan, where Professor X was presumed to have killed all the X-Men in an episode where his powers were kind of out of control. So it wasn't that. That's a little bit disappointing for me, but it's fine, because I'm buying into the reality of showing the continuity and like the events that are happening. I'm buying into it, and so I'm down with it. But I did want a connection to like the bigger stories that are being told in the cinematic world. But it's all right. It's all right, Gifted show, as long as you keep giving me what you've given me the last few episodes, as far as like lots of mutants constantly using their powers, and just continuing to kind of thread a realistic tapestry of an X-Men world. I'm down. I'm in. Even if it's not the X-Men world that we are already familiar with, you're creating a new world that I am familiar with, and I am happy with that. So I'll buy into it. But I do wish, as a fan, that that all of this connected, like the Marvel universe does. But whatever. As a fan of the X-Men throughout my life, having Fox own the film rights to the X-Men, I've come to certain peaceful places within myself that don't allow me to get too frustrated about the sort of restraints that are put on the representation of these characters cinematically. due to these licensing rights issues, which are so fucking stupid. Anyway, mini rant aside, so yeah, I mean, this was very much like a filler episode, but it was like a filler in a good way. It wasn't like your typical filler of like, let's just talk about a bunch of stuff and be bored. No, it was like filler, like, okay, we've got some epilogue type of action from this big climactic sequence that happened in the last episode. It also allows us to reveal stuff about some characters, kind of get a little bit more in depth with them. This Sentinel Services guy, the death of his daughter, seeing his daughter die, and then finally kind of getting a little bit more insight into his whole motivations for why he's so dead set on taking down mutants. It really adds dimension to his character and makes the threat of him as part of the Sentinel Services definitely something to be afraid of and to take seriously. But I did love like how by the end of the episode, given everything that happened to him in the episode, that he now is on his own kind of arc, where now because of the access Dreamer had into his mind, he seems to have forgotten like everything that happened the last 4 years post the death of his daughter. So that's an interesting sort of direction for the character. It's interesting to kind of think what that might lead to. Maybe it'll make him worse. Maybe it'll make him better. As far as like his feelings towards mutants, it's interesting and I like it. Also, another sort of subtle but interesting story arc that kind of continued was this whole Dreamer Blink situation. I thought that was going to result in, like I said, a love triangle, and like Blink, not ever finding out, or maybe finding out through James, what had happened to her. But she figured it out. She figured it out on her own. It didn't take forever for that to happen, and I like that. I like that a lot. I like that it didn't go the way you expect it to go. It went more of way of like revelation and now resentment, which is cool. Just like really subtle character moves that just give like the character drama a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of momentum, but not too much, because in the end it shouldn't be about like these like, it shouldn't be too much about like like this sort of drama amongst the characters. It should be more about like the world against mutants, and mutants trying to kind of deal with that, and therefore constantly being put in situations that require us to have like big sequences with mutants all over the place, exhibiting their powers in different ways. That is the most intriguing element of this world. It always has been, the spectacle of the mutants. But in order for that to have some gravitas, some weight, you definitely need some character drama. But it doesn't have to be like forced, kind of like, oh well, CW type of love triangle type stuff. It doesn't have to be that. It can be simply small story beats here and there. They kind of have to play themselves out amongst the characters, but always having sort of the big conflict as like the main kind of obstacle to these characters having the kind of life that they want to have, and not again, it not being like these interpersonal issues that kind of hold any kind of weight, because in relation to what's happening in society being completely against mutants, and mutants having to deal with that, with this underground railroad essentially, and like everything that goes along with trying to survive in the margins of society. That is ultimately what should always be the focus of this show. And if it is, if they maintain that, then it will continue to be successful. I'm all in right now. I am all in, and I'm not concerned anymore. I'm not like I was concerned at first about where it might be heading, and you have to be skeptical of it. You can't just like say, oh, this is my favorite thing in the world, and so I'm gonna love it no matter what. Like that is a recipe for disaster. And it's like we have to be realistic about like the quality of the things that we watch. Like, and I have been, and I've been again, hesitant to kind of be all in, and now I am all in. I'm all in on this show. I can't wait for next week. I can't wait for more. Um, like I said, this was a filler episode, but it was an interesting filler episode. Like everything that happened in it was interesting. The stuff that was happening with the Strucker father was interesting. Him sort of diverting attention away from the headquarters. The stuff that was happening with the mom and the kids and them trying to save the life of this guy, the invisible guy, not the invisible guy. Yeah, I no wait, he did turn invisible. Yeah, trying to save his life. That was interesting. Like they actually saved his life by performing surgery, even though she's not a surgeon, the mother. But she seems to have some sort of medical training, so that's a good thing. She's a nurse of some sort. So that stuff was interesting. The all the stuff with Lorna and Pulse was fantastic. I love them two. I love them two together. I love any moment where Lorna uses her powers, like so when she kind of used the mirror to reflect his solar power onto that drone, and they took that drone down. That was fucking awesome. But certainly when she, when she did a couple of things, when she threw that guy into the van, and then like she deflected the bullets, and then she took the guy, and then they went to that warehouse, and she like got that that metal bar out of the foundation of the concrete and used it as a collar for the dude. Loved it. Loved that. Like it's like, if you're gonna have Lorna on the show, she better be fucking all out power, and that's what we're seeing. So I'm really happy about that. I'm really satisfied with that. You can't just have a character like Polaris and fucking be cheap, or like, just have sort of second grade effects. No, like it's got to be fucking dope. It's got to be real. It's got to feel real, and it can't feel restrained, and it doesn't. It doesn't feel restrained. Like the restraining collar is off, both literally and figuratively, fortunately. And we keep seeing her use her powers. Awesome. Then Blink comes in. That's exactly what I was thinking when they called Dreamer. I was like, well, why doesn't Blink just fucking teleport them into the place? Okay, she did. Good. Doing exactly what you should be doing. You got to teleport a user. Dreamer goes in there, uses her power to do all the stuff with the dude, the Sentinel Services guy. Perfect. That's exactly what should have happened. You have a person that can enter a person's mind in some way. It's not exactly clear what precisely her powers are, but she seems to be not just able to implant memories, but also to go inside a person's mind and read their thoughts, essentially. So she is somewhat of a telepath as well. So that was cool. We saw a little bit of Sage action as well. Not too much, but like it's clear like she is honed in on the technology, which is what her character is all about. Her character has the ability to kind of interact with technology on some like advanced level that's beyond normal folks. So we're seeing a subtle stuff with that, and I'm liking it. She's definitely a supporting character, but they're using her. And then this other guy, Shatter, I think his name is, the guy that has like that crack on his face, looks fucking dope, and he's around, and they keep using him, and he's talking now, which is good. Really love that thing. So I read up on him. I didn't really know the character too well, but apparently like he tried to shoot himself. Maybe when he found out he was a mutant or something, and like it cracked his face because he's like, I don't know, like some super hard material or something. I don't know. I'm not exactly familiar. They're using a lot of kind of obscure characters, which I love. And like that was something I was commenting on earlier in these reviews, the fact that they were using characters I wasn't necessarily aware whether or not they were creating them for the show or they were from canon. And they appear to be mostly from canon, which is really cool. The fact that they're using all these kind of obscure characters and they are not, again, holding back from kind of just like showing their different powers and the different things that kind of make them interesting mutants. So yeah, this very much is a bridge type of episode from the last big sequence to whatever's coming up next. We still didn't find out anything about this scientist that's interested in the kids. That's interesting. I'm sure that's going to kind of lead us into whatever the big sort of bad is for the season. Hopefully it's Genosha. Hopefully that scientist is on Genosha. It'd be so dope if like the show ended on Genosha and all these like mutants were like tied up and you know that was it. That was like the season finale and we're like, yes, Genosha next season. That's gonna be dope. Um, we'll see. We'll see if it goes there. I mean, I'm happy with the way it's going. I'm not gonna try to speculate as to what will actually happen at this point, but more of this, please. More of this show. The more, the merrier at this point. Happy is definitely the word of the night. And looking forward to more. So yeah, I'll be tuning in next week. I'll be giving my thoughts on it as well. I think things will continue to get better and more interesting, and this may actually persist and survive and thrive, which is what I fucking want from this show. So that's really exciting. Anyway, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Thanks for checking out my video. If you haven't already subscribed, there's a little button down there. Just press that button, subscribe, keep up. It'll be fun. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in that box, ladies and gentlemen, because ain't nobody checking me, folks. Ain't nobody checking me. Bye-bye.